Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome. It is me, the company's expert, trying something new. This is a completely different time of day than I do a live stream. And hopefully you liked my little message I put out to all my subscribers earlier today to come and join me live, because I promise you wit and my extremely good looks. And I have delivered on both of those so far. So isn't that exciting? Today, we're going to talk about careers. We're going to talk about how to pass a job interview. We're going to talk about ways of discovering jobs. We're going to talk about how hiring works in general. And I've had several requests to talk about soft skills. Soft skills. What soft skills do you need, and what do people mean by that? So we're going to get into that also tonight. And there are 7 people here. So thank you for being here. I'm going to be taking questions too. Before we get into that, I just want to say soft skills, because I've got several questions on this already. I find that a lot of people have a really tough time with this aspect of interviewing, whether it's a job interview or even if it's not even a job interview, it's just an informational interview and you're meeting with a hiring manager or someone like that. And there could be a job opportunity in there somewhere. So, you want to make a good impression. You want to leave the person with the impression that you are a highly capable person. And if they're looking for someone with the skills you have, they should maybe reach out to you and offer you a job. But listen, one thing that I think everyone needs to know is that if you are looking for a job right now, if you are between jobs, first of all, okay, before we even get into it, let me say that we are at our lowest point when we are between jobs, okay? We are at our most vulnerable, and psychologically, emotionally, all that kind of stuff. It's a terrible place to be. A lot of people, it's really bad because you're out of work, and on top of this, your self-confidence is taking a shot every time you are rejected, because you feel it's like a rejection of you, of everything you are, everything you're capable of, all your skills, all your experience, all the time spent at school, all the time spent working on the job. And I'm here to tell you, the first thing you need to know is that it is not a rejection of all of that. A lot of times you're up against a couple of things. First of all, a lot of people believe that to get a job, you just need to be qualified. I see a lot of people leaving comments and stuff about, like, I don't understand why I was rejected when, I have everything they're looking for. The reality is that it's okay. That's a start. Being qualified and having all the things they're looking for, that's a start. But beyond that, there's quite a few other things that you would need to be selected by them. And the biggest factor beyond being qualified is random chance. Okay, because sometimes they're just looking for something that is ridiculous and silly, and they're not telling you about it. And that's the reason they're not selecting you. You should not take it as a rejection of you because you did nothing wrong. They just happen to be looking for something, okay? They want somebody tall. They want somebody that has right-wing political opinions, They want someone that, knows firsthand what it's like to have a disabled, physically or mentally disabled family member. Now you may not have any of those, and is that a reflection on you? No, it isn't. That's what they're looking for. And it's not really a match. Okay. But the great news is that the next job you apply for, they happen to be looking for something weird like that you have. And so you jump to the top of the pile. You are their number one candidate, even though you might not be the most qualified or the most senior. That's the stuff that can get you hired. Okay. So what do you call that? That's just random chance. That's all that is. Okay. So the name of the game is that it's a numbers game, and you just have to keep trying. So I just want to say that right off the hop. We got some people here. We got 23 people here. Christine says, "Hi, Bill." Hey, Christine. It's good to see you here. Thanks for coming. Let's Learn Pharma. That's a good name. Says, "Sir, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn." Well, I don't connect to anybody on LinkedIn. It's just people I actually I either know or I do business with. I'm also a YouTuber from India. Okay, that's cool. Well, listen, contact me by email, and we'll see what can happen. So if you have a question about anything to do with jobs or careers, passing an interview, doing a resume, or what I find a little bit more interesting, which is the methods to get a job. A lot of people are having problems finding a job or passing an interview because they are going about their job search the wrong way. Okay, as I've said many times, and this may be news to you if you're just joining me, the number one method that people use to get jobs, statistically, is networking. Okay, that means they don't respond to a posted job ad with an application and then wait for a call from a recruiter. No, instead, they talk to someone that they have some kind of connection with that works at the company. And you say something to the effect of, hello, I'm here. I'm great at this. I solve this problem. And if ever you're looking for that, please let me know. And they turn around and say, you know what? Just as a matter of random chance, we are actually looking for someone with those type of skills right now. So maybe let's talk. Okay. That method, if that sounds weird to you, if that sounds kooky and crazy and you've never really heard of that before, that's the way that 75% of people who have jobs get their jobs. Okay. It's not dealing with recruiters. That's kind of the default way, the most obvious way, but it's not the most common way. So there's the first kind of brain tease for you. Shocking revelation, and I'm full of them. Elizabeth Peterson says, I have an interview tomorrow for a parole officer position. Good vibes and advice welcome. Well, good vibes. I don't know how you send good vibes. It's kind of hard when I've just got this little camera space to work with. But good vibes and advice. Like, I don't know too much personally about being a parole officer. Okay, I'm not super sure what skills you need, but a general advice across the board is that the number one thing, it's very basic, but it's very important, is that a lot of people are qualified. They could select any one of those people, okay? The number one thing you can have that they will respond to is being likable, okay? If you're very off-putting in some way, that does not do you good. You could be brilliant, but if you're off-putting in some way, that can kill your chances. Okay, so what does that mean? That means like, okay, not being very charismatic. They say, hi, how you doing? You say, fine. Something like that. Or they crack a joke and you don't laugh. Or they do something and you get offended by it. And maybe it's not really something that obviously would be offensive. It was maybe just something that you took the wrong way, but you got super offended by it. You're super nervous to the point where you can't function. That would be a problem. Okay. Or you're just in a bad mood. That would be a problem. So if you do the opposite of all of that, okay, that can help. That can a lot of times be a tiebreaker. Okay. So that's kind of the most obvious thing. If you do that and you're qualified, and assuming you have done some basic preparation and rehearsal for like how to answer the common job interview questions and things like that, that's pretty good. Okay. If you've done that stuff, I wouldn't sweat it. Go in there, do your best. If it works out, great. Okay. Beyond that, there's nothing you can really do to force an outcome. Okay. So, and then I wish you all the luck in the world, and hopefully you'll get it. But just in case you don't, there's always a next time, and you keep doing this, and sooner or later, usually sooner, something happens. Okay, so best of luck to Elizabeth. Max says, hi, Bill. Thank you for the streams. I'm currently searching for a job. Well, Max, I'd like to say you've come to the right place. I'll try and help you if I can. If you have any specific questions, let me know. Jet Tortoise, or depending where you are in the world, Tortoise, Hello, sir. You can't imagine how much progress I've made thanks to you. Well, congratulations. That's great to hear. And you should be very proud. And, keep doing it. Stay on that trajectory. You are going to be a superstar. You're going to be a boss. The more you learn, the more it helps. Okay. Your career will take off the more you try and improve yourself. So way to go. That's the secret to success. It may happen sooner, it may happen later, but eventually you will win. Okay, if you take that approach. How do I open my migration topic discussion when I applied to a company in a different country, and what stage is best for it? Oh, well, listen, that's very general. And the other thing is that I'm not really the greatest person to talk to for immigration advice. All I can say is that when it comes to that stuff, okay, having a reference in the host country, the country you're going to, okay, usually that's very important, okay? So if you have career experience back in your home country, your country of origin, but you don't have any experience or any references in the host country, the one you're going to, okay, that can be difficult. So what you want is you want some kind of contact. Like if you don't have experience in the host country, what is probably the next best thing is having a contact, someone who can at least give you a personal reference, who says, I know this person, they're good, they're reliable, they know their stuff, they're not a criminal, they're not crazy, they're not a liar, stuff like that. That is important, okay? And all I can speak from is my personal experiences, which I'm sure are not representative of the whole world in every situation. But what I know from that is what people sometimes do is they come in and they take just almost any job at first just to get some host country experience, okay? Just so someone can say, look, I've worked with this person. They're reliable. They're professional. They do what they say. They can speak the language well, if that's an issue, if that's a concern. Things like this, okay? So that's very important. Once they get that, then they can maybe get another job which is more appropriate to their skills and experience and qualifications. Okay? Obviously, this is very general. It's going to depend what profession, what country, going into what country. And, the best thing to do would be to contact someone who has specific experience in those two countries. Okay, so that's what I would say to that. Elizabeth Peterson says, yes, I hear you, and I second that. Tyler says, you are awesome, so happy to tune in with the expert. Well, thank you for being here, Tyler. You're awesome for being here, and I hope you get something out of it. Rain says, hello. I remember Rain. You've been on one of these before. Elizabeth Pearson, I'm Gen X and don't get offended often. LOL. Thanks. Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to alienate half my audience here, but I get it. Plaid Moose says, hey, just wanted to drop in and say I took the advice you gave me regarding my contract renewal, got it renewed with a raise. Thanks so much for giving me the confidence. Hey, you had that all along, my friend. Way to go. Way to go. And keep on keeping on. It's only up from here. And congratulations. Jack Francisco says, hi, Bill. How long should I wait if the recruiter said, please wait for HR to schedule your interview? Now, when you say wait, what do you mean? Because if what you mean is that you are going to stop your job search while you focus all your energy on waiting for these people to get back to you, in my professional opinion, that's a bad idea. And when I say professional, I mean completely amateur. It's just my opinion. Don't wait for these people. Look, if they want to call you back and give you an interview, great. That's awesome. That's great news. However, don't let it impact what's best for you, trusting something that a recruiter said, okay? not to knock recruiters, because you know me, I never do that. But these people lie as often as they breathe, okay? They will say stuff that's a total kiss off. It's a blatant lie just to avoid any unpleasant interaction when they have absolutely no intention of doing the thing that they're saying to you, okay? I'm not saying that's what's happening here. All I'm saying is that, how can I put this? Money talks, BS walks. They can say whatever they want. If they never call you back, you will have lost that time waiting for these people, okay? They don't deserve your trust. Trust is earned, not given, okay? So in the meantime, while you're waiting for them to get back to you, let them take all the time they need. You do you, okay? You pursue whatever opportunities you can get in that time. Now, if you're talking about following up with them, you can follow up whenever you want. Now, if they say, I'll get back to you, okay? A great thing to do is in that moment, you say, what will this be within the next couple of days or maybe a week? Get them to give you a time frame if they can, okay? If you haven't done that, that's fine. I would say as a default, follow back in 2 days, okay, for an interview. And if they say something like, we don't have any information for you at this time, it hasn't happened yet, we'll let you know. Then what you can do is then you say, okay, so does that mean call back in another 2 days or should I wait a week? Something like that. I'd ask them, okay? And I don't want to be negative here, but don't get your hopes up too high. A lot of recruiters say a lot of different things that's convenient for them, especially if it's bad news. They will almost never deliver bad news. They will always give you good news. That's a lie. So that's what I'd have to say to that. David says, hey, I'm a computer engineer student, and I just got a call from Dell today for an interview, an internship. How can I prepare? This is my first engineer interview. Listen, here's what you can do. This is like your first job interview. Just in a nutshell, there's about 5 to 7 standard job interview questions, okay? I've done videos on all of those. If you go to my YouTube page, okay, if you click my name, the company's expert, it takes you to my page. There's a playlist called Get Hired. It's right up front and center. And just watch those videos. Those are kind of the standard job interview questions. And make sure you know those, okay? And beyond that, like I said earlier, just try and be friendly and likable, okay? Your job in the interview is to tell them what you have, okay? It's called selling yourself. You have to sell yourself. Now, what does that mean? That means you give them reasons to hire you. What does that mean? That means you tell them what you have, what you've done, what you can do. Okay, those 3 things. Basically, all the stuff on your resume that's relevant, you want them to know that. So if they say, why should we hire you? You say, well, you're looking for someone with an engineering degree. I have that engineering degree. You're looking for somebody that has done this. I've done that, right? You're looking for somebody who specializes in this field. I specialize in this field. I seem like a perfect match. That's why you should hire me, right? That's your purpose in the interview, is to tell them those things. So whatever question they ask you, as much as you possibly can, try and answer with those things. Okay? You already know what they're looking for. They've said it on the job posting or the internship posting page. Just tell them that stuff, okay? And if you don't quite meet one of the requirements, they say they're looking for someone with 5 years experience in this. Maybe you don't have that, okay? But maybe you've got some kind of a substitute that might be a substitute. Okay, I don't have 5 years experience in that, but I have taken a tour of a private company that does that, okay? And I spent a lot of time with them, and they showed me everything. And I really know what I'm getting into when it comes to that stuff. So I know what I'm getting into, and I know kind of the culture and how it works. So there you go. So it shouldn't be an issue. Okay? So if you don't have one of the requirements, give them some kind of substitute and be confident about it, that it is a substitute. Regardless of what they say, they're going to say all kinds of things to maybe undermine your confidence. What makes you think that's good enough? The fact that you're at the interview, that shows that it's good enough. Because if it wasn't good enough, they could see that on your resume. They wouldn't have invited you for an interview if it was really not good enough. So hopefully that helps. Someone in Cyrillic script, sorry, I can't read it, from Ukraine. Stay safe. An interview today. Half of the skills and knowledge listed in the vacancy are missing. Does it make sense to apply for such vacancies? And what kind of internal attitude should be? I understand that rarely a person has all the qualities listed in the vacancy. Listen, that could go both ways. If the job posting is missing a bunch of, essential things, there could be a nefarious reason for that. It could be kind of something weird going on, but not necessarily. So listen, if they've given you an interview, if you have nothing else going, like unless there's some reason not to go, I would go and do your best. And that's all you can do. I know it's hard to prepare when they haven't said what they're looking for. Okay. But listen, just go and don't stress out too much. Have your resume with you. Okay. It helps to, just brush up, just read your resume a couple of times before the interview, just so it's loaded into your head. And, whatever questions they ask you, you just answer them. And that's all you can do. So unless there's a reason not to go, I would go. If they keep giving you red flags, like really weird stuff is going on, then obviously you wouldn't want to pursue it. But until that moment arrives, I would go for it. Jack Alexander, good evening, Bill. Why do hiring managers and human resource personnel consider having two jobs at the same time? What is the best way to answer having two jobs at the same time? Thank you. Okay, here's the deal. Now, speaking as a former employer, here's probably what they're thinking, okay? When you have an employee that has two jobs, they work for you, but they also do something else, okay? Now, depending what it is, okay, like if we're talking part-time minimum wage jobs, this may not apply. But if you work in sort of like a professional place, you've got a professional job, you're a worker in like a factory or, I don't know. It's a full-time job. It's permanent. Okay. If you have a second job somewhere, right off the hop, some employers will question your loyalty. Because let's be honest here, if you have two jobs, that's good for you. Okay. It's like risk management for you. If you lose one job, you still got the other. So you've got an income stream coming in. Okay. Now, the problem is that if you're an employer and you're looking at this same situation, you see it the other way. You see it as that like, well, I'm questioning your loyalty. I don't know how committed you are to working here if you're also, committed to this other job that you're doing. And sometimes I imagine you might have to choose. If we want you to work overtime, or we need you to stay late or whatever it is, but you've got another job, you'll probably say no. It's because you've got loyalty to this other job. The other concern is that if you have another job in the same industry, then the stakes go up because now there's questions of like, okay, you're working for us, but you're going home and then you're working for this other company in the same industry. Are you perhaps taking some of our trade secrets and telling everybody, using it to benefit you, doing the same kind of work here for customers, but you're doing it at home for cheaper? Things like this. It gets even more risky from an employer's perspective. Okay. So depending what situation you're in, it can bring up some of those issues. So unless there was a really good reason, I wouldn't reveal to an employer, especially during the hiring process, if that's what you're doing, that you have a second job, okay? Because Not everyone, but a lot of people will consider that a red flag for those reasons. Even though you and I both know it's good for you, they won't see it that way. The other thing is that if you have like your own side hustle or something, you're doing your own thing on the side. You know, you're selling your own product or offering your own services or, you know, whatever. You're making money. Now, once again, that can be a red flag. You may want to reveal that because it shows, hey, look how talented I am. Look what a great business sense I have and what a diligent worker I am. You want to tell this as like an accomplishment. It's sort of advertising for how awesome you are. The only problem is that they won't see it that way. They'll see it as like, oh, you already got your own thing going, you know? So you won't really be fully committed to us if we hire you because you got your own thing. And what would people rather do? Work for some slave driving boss or do their own thing? Of course they would choose to do their own thing if you had to choose. So that's also why they see it as a red flag. It questions your loyalty. Jack Francisco, you're welcome. You're welcome, Jack. How do you answer questions you don't know how to answer? That's pretty much the job interview experience, isn't it? They're going to throw questions at you that you've never prepared for. One of the reasons for that is they usually don't just ask you the standard questions in the standard form. They phrase them completely different. So you think that it's a completely different question, right? What you do is you practice. Usually you would have certain things you'd fall back on, right? Like one of the things was I said earlier, like 5 minutes ago was, you know, you want to tell them things off your resume. Like, I have this. I've done this. I have these skills. I have training in this. I have skills in this area, you know, things like this. So they throw a question at you that you've never considered. Okay. Something like, let me just make up a question off the top of my head. You know, why is it that you think that you would be more qualified at this job than someone who has more experience than you, but less education? Okay, there's a random question I made up. I don't know how to answer that in the spur of the moment. I got 15 people staring at me in a panel interview. I'd never practiced that question. So I fall back on one of my default answers. Well, I just want you to know, first of all, as you can see on my resume, I have this experience. You know, I've been a welder for 5 years. Now, I know that's not strictly needed here, but when I was a welder, it forced me to do this type of work in this type of situation with these type of people under these conditions. It was a 24/7 operation. It was unionized, you know. So because of all that, I have that type of experience, and I know the importance of getting things done on time, doing things to proper customer specified standards, blah, 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 blah. And that's what makes me more qualified than someone who's just done run of the mill technician work, you know, something like that, right? So you fall back on a few default answers, okay? And that's probably the biggest one, is to say you have these great things. Okay. And if you mention it more than once during the interview, that's fine. You can mention it 5 times, because if that's the answer to their question, you want to make sure they get the message. Now, where did I leave off here? Oh, got to take a mystery drink. A drink in the blue cup. See, there's the blue cup, and then there's the blue cup. I suppose I could have one in each hand. That just makes it all more exciting. Okay. Rain, the gentle sounds of the rain says, yes, indeed. I was here last time, 2 weeks ago, almost. I perform anchor round of the interview and I have to, whoa, that was some loud lightning. I have to perform another round of the interview and have to recontact them after 2 weeks. It's today, so probably I have to make a follow-up. I will see. Okay? Okay, good. Yeah, I recognized your name. Man, that sounded like someone set off a cannon right behind my window. But that's okay. It's all in good fun. You've never done real hunting until you hunt birds with a cannon. That's how you know you're big leagues. Tyler K says, aspiring consultant here. Right on. I have a two-part question. Question the first. How can we better prepare quick thinking skills in the moment? Okay, that was the first question. Well, practice makes perfect. Also, being at ease helps, right? Part of it is practice, okay, and part of it is preparation. Now, I know those sound the same, but by practice, I mean experience, okay? And then preparation, I mean studying, like thinking, like, okay, learning, like what's a great answer to this question? What's a great answer to that question? And having backup answers, okay? Like, for example, when someone asks you a hostile question, now this is not for a job interview, but this is more for public speaking. If somebody says something, they ask you, they say something to you, or they ask you a question that's really hostile, a blanket answer is to say, well, why would you ask me that? And you sort of turn around whatever they said on them, and now it puts the spotlight on them. And they have to sort of come up with a clever answer, right? There's like a bunch of those, like you try and do some studying to like learn, okay, I need to have some backup answers for different situations. But then it's experience. It's going to a lot of interviews and going to a lot of meetings and just practice. The more you do, the better you get. It's as simple as that. Second question. Question the second. How do we best ask for question restatement or clarification? Thanks for your insight. Well, listen, if it's not a job interview question, if it's not a job interview situation where you're trying to gain the favor of the person asking, okay, it's more of like a sort of neutral thing or even possibly a hostile thing, then it's easy, okay? You just, say like, could you restate that, please? I didn't quite understand that. But that may not be as gracious and polite as you might want in a job interview. So you could just say, I'm sorry, could you please perhaps rephrase that a little? I didn't quite understand. Something like that. If it's more about your demeanor than it is about the words that come out of your mouth, really. Okay, as long as the body language is very polite, deferential, then it should be fine. Okay, that's what I would say. But full disclosure, I am not a master of debate. Okay, I'm not a lawyer. You ask a lawyer something like that, they will have, especially like a trial lawyer, like a criminal lawyer type, they will probably have a good answer for that. Okay, what is more important, soft skills or hard skills? Well, they're equally important. You like that answer? Here's how it works. Hard skills get you the interview. Once you're called for an interview, in the interview, soft skills are more important. Okay? If you're qualified, you get an interview. Once you're in an interview and they have to select between all these different people, they usually hire the ones they like the best. And for that, soft skills are important. Okay? Also, the ability to sell yourself and make a good first impression. So that's all soft skills. That's sales ability. You're selling yourself. What you're giving them is you're giving them a preview of what it would be like to work with you, right? So if you guys just don't click, if they say something and you take offense to it, or they ask a question and you give a 10-minute answer, which is a lot longer than what might be appropriate, that might not be good, right? So things like that, okay? In the interview, soft skills are more important. That's with the assumption that you're qualified for the job and you have the hard skills, right? But the reality is that every candidate they consider seriously will have the hard skills. They have to make a decision between them, and for that, they go to the soft skills. What is the most important for manager positions? Well, it's hard to answer these extremely general questions because, sometimes the more general they are, the more general the answer, and it gets so general that it becomes useless. I mean, when you say manager, what are you talking about? A manager at a McDonald's when you're 16 years old? Or are you talking about the chief financial officer of a Fortune 500 company? I mean, you know what I mean? It's going to vary, right? Depending on what you're talking about, what level, and what type of manager. For example, if you're a marketing manager or a sales manager, then obviously people management skills is going to be extremely important, right? But if you're talking about an engineering manager, R&D manager or, lead technician, it's going to be technical prowess is going to be up there, right? So it's going to vary. Okay. It's not really possible to answer that very well. Okay. You got a lot of questions. How long answer should be for question, tell me about yourself and what is better to tell? Well, you should watch my video on that. I did that. It's the single most popular video on my channel is that one with like millions of views. So check that out. That video can answer a hell of a lot better than I can in like 20 seconds. Okay. Oh, to the answer above. Look, there you go. You guys are answering each other's questions. That's great. I'm just curious. To answer above. Well, as you can see from my resume, 45 seconds from least to most recent. That's what brings me here today and why I'm excited for this opportunity. Yes, that's kind of what I would recommend. So what would that be? A minute, maybe, to say all that? Between 45 seconds and a little extra? IT support manager. Well, look, the two most important things will be, first of all, your technical skills. Okay, it's hard to be the IT support manager when you yourself don't know any of the technicalities of the job. You can't help people yourself or answer any questions or fix any problems. So that's probably a given. Okay, they're going to want that. Then you're also going to have the people management component. Okay, you're going to be managing people. So, for example, if a subordinate of yours has an issue, there's a conflict between them and another employee. You've got to referee this. Knowing how to resolve conflicts, knowing how to communicate. Basically, what you want everyone to do their jobs, and you want everybody to love to work for you. That's the bottom line. So if you can do that, that's going to be high up, okay, on what they're probably looking for if they are looking for the right things. Then you also have to have, depending on what level it is, you're going to have to understand business to a degree, because you're probably going to be given a budget. You're going to be given other constraints. You're going to be given a staff of a certain size. And with those resources, you're going to have to accomplish some goals. So understanding that is going to be a big thing too. You're going to have to be organized. You're going to have to be able to coordinate things. But any kind of manager role, when you're working with people, communication is going to be huge. Okay? So communication is two-way. You're going to be communicating things to your employees. This is what I need you to do. This is how this is going to work. This is our policy on this. Also, you're going to be getting communication from them to you. You want to find out what's going on. You want to know if there's a problem, what's happening. What went on here last night that led to everything being in disarray in the morning when I come in. I need to know so we can resolve this, right? If people have issues, you need to be able to get them to explain it to you in such a way that they don't get upset and they're actually working with you. So all of that is very important. That's the difference between being an IT worker and being an IT manager, okay? There's people skills involved. And depending on the situation, business skills. Well, mystery drink. Man, I really need to get some more colorful shirts. I got a white shirt, gray background, absolutely no color whatsoever. I feel like the architect in The Matrix 2. You guys see the movie? It was ancient. I like the architect in that movie. A lot of people didn't like that movie. I thought it had weird parts, but I thought the movie itself was actually pretty good. I know some people will give me an argument on that. I thought it was weird the first time I saw it, but I saw it a bunch more times, and I liked it more and more. So we're talking about IT. All I need is a big glue-on white beard, and I'll look exactly like that guy. It'd be like looking into a mirror. Where did I leave off here? How do you say your name? Rayan? Rayan's Gaming? Rayan's Gaming says hi. And I say, hi. It's like a postcard, right? Hello. Bill says hi, right? Okay, Chi DK Fam says, hi, sir. I'm a doctor student. I'm a doctor student searching for engineering jobs in Japan. Oh, okay. That's a nice mix. You're a doctor searching for engineering jobs. Do you mean like a doctor of engineering, or are you talking about just like a medical doctor? How do you think I should answer for the question, why did you leave academia for industry? Oh, I'd love someone to ask me that question. Academia, I mean, look, I would think that you would probably have your own opinion on that, right? I mean, that would be a good start to answer that question, okay? I mean, I could give you an answer why I would leave academia for it. Listen, it depends on your audience. So depending on who is asking you this question, okay? If someone in academia is asking you this question, you might want to say something a bit more guarded, like, well, it was time for a change. I've never been out in the real world in this capacity, and I was just curious to see firsthand how it works, and what are the problems that people are actually encountering on a day-to-day basis and how it tends to work, okay? But if someone in the private sector asked you that question, if it were me, I would be a little more scathing of academia and say like, well, look, I was tired of theory and I was tired of being in a little bit of an ivory tower. I want to see the practical side of this. I want to see where the rubber meets the road, what's actually important, the types of solutions that actually get implemented, and some of the factors that make those solutions a success or a failure. Something like that. I got my own thoughts on that question, but which I would love to go into, but I'm sure no one's interested. But you tailor it to your audience. What do you think they want to hear? Okay. The fact that you're asking me this question signals that you don't really want to sort of keep it real and give your actual reason. You want to give a very diplomatic reason. So think of who the audience is. Okay. You want an answer that they will probably go, yeah, I feel that way too. I like you, something like that. Okay. Carlos says, I'm 46 years old, just arrived to the US. I have an MBA and I ran a small company in Mexico with experience as a business developer in construction and sustainability. What should be my approach to get a job? Listen, I am in none of those industries or professions or backgrounds. So, I'm going to give you my opinion, but take it with a grain of salt, okay? Like I said earlier to somebody, having a reference from your host country, in your case, you're in the US, right? Yeah, in the US. Having a reference in the US is going to be very important. So you can try directly to apply for the jobs you want, okay? If it's an issue, the whole like coming from Mexico thing, you don't have any work references or anything like that in the US that are in the US. If that's an issue, if you find that's an issue, then you may have to take a job, like a sort of lower level job, just to get some experience in your host country. You shouldn't need to be in that job for very long, just long enough. It could be even like 3 months or something, just to build up some references, some possibly even a letter of recommendation. Somebody saying, look, I've worked with this person. They're awesome. They're professional. They're reliable. The language isn't a barrier. The culture isn't a barrier. Very professional person. This kind of thing. Once you have that, then there shouldn't really be any other barriers, at least that I know of, in your way, to get a job in the US in your chosen profession. Okay? So that's what I'd have to say. I mean, once again, it's a very general question. What should be my approach to get a job? I would give some general advice here to people is that if you are just starting out, you're wondering how to get a job. I have to get a job. What should I do? You're going to do a job search campaign. And a component of that is going to be looking at job listings, okay, and responding to them with your application. Usually that's your resume plus maybe some other things. That's going to be a component of your job search. The other thing I would do, if it were me, is I would also try and get a job through networking, okay? Now, especially if you're a professional person, you've got a profession, you have a career as opposed to a series of jobs, you definitely want to learn how to do this, okay? Because the higher you go, the more people fill those jobs through networking. Most of them are not posted. They're filled through networking, okay? If you get up to the executive level, okay, and we're talking jobs that are like, 200, 300,000 US a year, those jobs, 90% of them are never posted, okay? They're filled through networking. So you should learn networking if you're a professional person. If you're an engineer or you have a master's degree of any kind, certainly if you're an academic, but anybody with a bachelor degree and up, even if you have like a trade, I would also do it if you had a trade, like a skill trade. If you're young, you probably have never heard of this. You don't understand anything about it. You may think that, I have to go to events and meet people and schmooze with them. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? Professional networking. I don't care if you're the biggest introvert on the planet. You can do this. You don't have to talk to a single person. You don't have to pick up a phone. You don't have to, really, you don't have to have a meeting with anyone until you get to a job interview. You could do this from home. It's done over social networking. It's done remotely, or it can be done that way, and it should be done that way. If you're an extrovert and you don't mind going out and meeting people, that's a bonus, but it's really not necessary. And neither do you have to know a million people, okay? You don't have to know anybody. The idea is that you create connections and then you exploit those connections. You tap that network, okay? Now, if this is new to you and you don't understand anything about it, you've never done this, okay, I have a video it's like a 5-minute video that will show you what I mean, okay? And if you can just bear with me, I'm going to see if I can pull it up for you guys. It's called How Successful People Get Jobs. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up my YouTube channel and I will show you what it looks like. Okay, so let's see if I can get the screen share working here. Here we go. So okay, so this is my YouTube channel. Okay, so if you go here to just click on my name, okay, the company's expert, and if you scroll down, I'm looking at videos, right? I've got it set to videos, and this is just sort by most recent, right? And if you scroll down, where is it? Right here. So this one right here, okay, How Successful People Get Jobs. And what I do is I show you this, I walk you through this. It's playing an ad right now, but I walk you through what you can do just using things like Google Maps, okay, and LinkedIn, okay, like this. You can see the video, okay. Go and check that out because that's a great introduction to the entire concept. Okay, so you will have a component of your job search that deals with answering job ads. That's the default method. It's the most basic method. It's also one of the worst methods in terms of chances of success, okay? Also, make sure you're doing something with networking, okay? Networking, the idea is that you're proactively going out and contacting hiring managers, maybe by email, maybe by DM, something like that. And you're sending a message. You're basically saying, hello, I'm here. I can do this. If ever you're looking for this, let me know. Now, there's a bit more to it. You have to know how to find the right people, how to communicate with them, and then, how to send an appropriate professional message. Okay. I get messages like this from people on LinkedIn that clearly don't know what they're doing. They're very amateur. They make a very bad first impression. They give you their entire life story. They talk all about themselves. I don't know who you are. I'm not going to read 2 pages about somebody I have no clue. They're not even in my country a lot of the times, and it's something that I know they've sent out to 1,000 other people. So it's like, that's not worth my time. So, there's a little bit more to it, but it really isn't rocket science. I mean, if you can get a degree in IT or, any business or anything like this, you certainly can do this. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you career skills for life. Okay. You learn this stuff now, you take the trouble to learn this. This is where all the good jobs are. This is where all the jobs are. And this is where most of the good jobs are. Okay. So this is why it's something that I believe is really worth your while. Okay. And I'm speaking from experience. Nobody can challenge me on this because I've done it. The latest thing I've done is I built my own consulting business purely by doing this. And I'm an introvert. Okay. You can probably tell by the way I speak, I'm not some like super charismatic extroverted type. I'm an introvert. I have a degree in engineering and I came up through operations and things like that. So yeah, learn this. Okay. This is the biggest thing you can do. I have some free videos on my channel and, obviously, I got my course. You can see it at the bottom of the screen. Check out the link in the description if you're into it. I mean, no pressure, but if you're looking to learn it from beginning to end, like step by step, I put it all into a course. So if that's of any interest to you, check it out. But that's what I would say to, how do I go about getting a job? Brandon Miller. Not just any Brandon Miller says, just wanted to thank you for what you do. You've been a great help over the past few years to me. Well, thank you for saying so, Brandon. I'm glad that you got some value from this. I hope that you're prospering, and it's great to hear. Keep it on, onwards and upwards. Steven says, question. What advice do you have for someone wanting to make a career change? I'm a teacher, and I want to move out of the classroom, but I feel like I'm only good at being a teacher. It's interesting because I'm sort of mixed on teachers. I've seen some amazing teachers, and I've seen some terrible ones, absolutely terrible. Listen, the great thing about a teacher is you can get up in front of a room full of people staring at you and feel perfectly at ease, okay? That doesn't automatically come to most people. Now, I'm not a teacher. I did go back like 5 years ago or something and do some teaching in academia and universities. I taught in business programs. I did some stuff in community college first, and then I went to a university and taught there. And I'm kind of mixed on it. I mean, it's really is a whole other world than being out in the real world. It really is. But to be a good teacher, okay, you have some soft skills right there. You've got public speaking abilities. Presumably you have some charisma, hopefully. You could be likable. You're a good communicator, right? I'm just playing the odds here. A lot of teachers, you can get up, you can make yourself understood, and hopefully, you're not the type of teacher that just puts everyone to sleep. Okay? You can make things come alive, and you do a lot of interaction with people. Okay? Now, those skills alone, those are like soft skills, really, in my opinion. And those are a lot of the skills you would need to be, say, a manager. Okay? You're going to be doing a lot of communicating. You got to have a lot of patience with people. Okay? What I learned early on being a manager is that I kind of naively went in thinking that I have to say things once and then they'll be done and then it'll be over. It's like, no, it couldn't be further from the truth. You have to repeat yourself a lot. And you can't lose patience with people. That you have to really have the patience to communicate properly. And some communication is a bit awkward. It's sensitive on sensitive topics. And, you have to be able to do all that. And you have to understand how to be professional under all kinds of situations. Maybe you have students that are hostile, are inattentive, things like this, and you have to manage it. So you have a lot of people skills right there. Okay. Now, I can assure you that those skills are needed and valued out in the real world. Okay. And when I say real world, I'm talking mainly about private sector. Okay. And I mean, usually underneath that, it'll need some technical skills. If you're a teacher, presumably you have some of those because you're going to be at least knowing the content that you will be teaching. So maybe it's mathematics or history or science or something, but presumably there will be some technical skills there. But if you have a combination of technical skills and people skills, there'll be a lot of things that you can do. And you might be able to lead off your career using the people skills. That will be the most obvious, the most easy to sell yourself on. Okay. So I'd look at it like that and start looking for opportunities accordingly. Jack says, "Hey, Bill, thank you for answering my earlier questions. How does working remotely affect a person's career?" I don't think anybody could really give you a definitive answer on that because it's still in the world of working remotely. Things have changed in the last 2 years and we're still kind of in early days because it's not over yet. So, I think it's going to depend entirely on like a lot of things, on the beliefs of the person that is the gatekeeper for whatever job. And you're going to find some people that believe that you must work at the office. You can't work remotely. Whereas other people are going to firmly believe that you can do very productive work remotely. And the fact that you're remote makes no difference at all. That also is going to vary by industry, by level, and by the type of the nature of the work you do. Okay? So that's going to vary completely wildly depending on what situation you're trying to apply into. Okay? I don't have specific answers for what, but it's going to vary by company. It's going to vary by individual too. Okay. Just taking recruiters, for instance, one recruiter will think, oh, you worked remotely. Okay, great. That's good. It shows that you have the discipline and the ability to work unsupervised, right? Another recruiter will look at that and say, you're working remotely. So you're probably goofing off and you're probably not a very hard worker, right? You see how all these silly little beliefs and assumptions can totally change how they place value on things, right? So you just keep trying until you hit upon that person, that gatekeeper to a job that believes that what you have is great. Okay. Jordan says, "Never would have guessed your presentation is great and you speak like a pro." Thank you, Jordan. That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, total introvert. I've taken the, I know this is apparently controversial, but I've taken the Myers-Briggs test a bunch of times, and I'm like the most extreme introvert. But sort of my career was based on technical skills. I didn't make it because I'm a people person. I learned some of that later on. I've done keynotes, I've done teaching, I've done all these things, you know. But yeah, you tack on those skills later, or at least if you're a technical person. You know, that's why I have a soft spot, I think, for introverts, because I know that in things like job interviews, extroverts always make the best impressions. You know, if you want to talk charisma, you want to talk like sort of getting along and clicking with somebody, like when it's your first meeting with them, you know, they have a little bit of an advantage in those type of situations. And I'm sure everybody here could probably tell a story of maybe you got a new boss and the boss was like an extrovert type and they wowed everybody when they first got in there. But after a little while, you see that they really don't have much substance. They don't have a strong technical background. You know, apart from talking to people, they don't really do much, and they can't really do much. You know, now don't get me wrong, talking to people is important, but if you don't have the abilities and knowledge to A, back it up, and B, know what you're talking about, you know, it's less effective than people think in the beginning. So my heart goes out to introverts because, you know, you may not present very well, you know, but you can do some stuff. And think about it this way. I mean, you look at history, all the people that have innovated, that have invented things, you know, made great discoveries, things like this, they're all introverts. Have you noticed that? Extroverts talk and they talk and they talk. It's introverts that actually push the world forward. They're the ones that have the focus to sort of work on something and obsess about something so hard that they make a breakthrough. You know, they do great things. And the problem is that all of that is undermined by the fact that they can't really present themselves very well. At least that's the stereotype. That's what I would think is average in my experience. So if you could tack on some basic people skills and soft skills to like a lot of technical ability, that's some fearsome talent. You know, they're not more successful than they are, because one of their weaknesses is they tend to underestimate the value of that stuff. They don't like doing it. They're not particularly good at it. So they assume that, oh, it's not necessary. And they look down on people that can do it. Usually that's a big mistake. And that's where the problem lies. Carlos says, thanks. You're welcome. Gagan Sharma says, does connections or networking mean regular communication with them or ping them only job-related talks? Well, it can mean both. It depends what you do, and you can do both of those. Listen, it doesn't require regular communication if you have nothing to talk about, okay? If you have nothing to say that's real, then don't waste people's time. Like, for example, I'm a bit more sensitive to this than a lot of people, but somebody just calling to say, so, how's it going? How you been? You know? It's like, my immediate thought is, okay, what do you want? You know? It's like, do you have anything real that, you know, we need to talk about? Now, I don't phrase it like that. I'm much more diplomatic most of the time, but yeah, that's what's going through my mind. Okay. And a lot of people think like this. Okay. So, you know, what you're going to basically do is you're going to communicate about something real once, possibly twice. And that's it. If it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. If they're not hiring right now, they're not hiring. If there's nothing that you want from them that they can give to you, then you have no reason to keep communicating. However, maybe something in the future may come up. For example, you say, hello, I've got this. I'm a fully qualified X, and I do a great job doing this. If ever you're looking, give me a call because I'd love to work at your company. They may say, well, look, that's great. I appreciate you telling me that. Unfortunately, we're not hiring right now, but I'll keep you in mind. And most of the time, that'll be all the communication you have. But maybe a month later, they might say, hey, are you still looking? Because I have a position I may need to fill. So let's talk. Something like that. Okay. But it gets much more sophisticated than that. So that's just an example. The best realtors were teachers. This is a cheap joke, but the best realtors were also criminals and liars. Just kidding, but not really. No, I know what you're saying. Look, the best, a lot of things are teachers. I think teaching is a great skill that is useful to tack on to other things. Anything where you have to persuade somebody, I think teaching skills will help. Okay, my studio says English is my second language, and in tech interviews, I don't think a lot of interviewers are interested in my accent and my explanation, and that is a big part of failing interviews. Can you help? Listen, if you suspect that it's your accent or your ability to speak in your second language that's a barrier for you, I hate to state the obvious, but if you suspect that, it's probably a factor, okay? So the good news is you know exactly what you have to do. Just work on it, okay? In this day and age, there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of, well, for a start, there's a lot of YouTube videos and things on, brushing up on your language skills, okay? And yes, being able to speak the native language of whatever country you're in, okay, is going to be a factor, okay? The more naturally you sound, the easier you are to comprehend by native speakers is going to be a factor, okay? And I feel your pain a little because French is my second language. Je parle français avec un accent très terrible, comme tu peux entendre. So yeah, it's hard. It's a barrier. You have to work at it. Okay, so, but listen, if you do this, it will pay off directly or indirectly. It will pay off. Okay. Now, I don't have videos on how to speak, but I know there's some great YouTube channels out there that do have videos like that. So yeah, start with those and just practice, practice. There are a lot of people that just don't practice, and so they never improve. If you're one of the few that actually works on this, after a short time, you're going to start seeing some improvement, and it will translate to better results in things like job interviews and communication of all kinds. Communication encounters and instances of all kinds. Kartik says, can I say this in a Vincent Price voice? Good evening from India, sir. India. Yes, good evening. Thank you for being here. And I know it's very early in the morning in India. It's like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or something like that. So thank you for being here. Jay Grace says, I'm interviewing and would like to negotiate half or full days off to go to recurring quarterly doctor visits with a family member. I struggle with how to word this. Any advice? Thanks. Well, my first advice would be you want to present this in a professional, appropriate way. So number one, I wouldn't communicate this in writing first. I would go see my boss. If you have a boss, I would go to your boss when they're not super busy. Okay. So like maybe Friday afternoon, something like that. Okay. They're not like stressed out. They're not, they've got a million things going, sometime like that. And just say like, hey, you got a couple minutes. I'd just like to talk about something with you in private, if that's okay. And then do it in person. Say like, look, here, listen, I have a bit of a family situation. And I would like to do this. It's going to be extremely hard for me to work without being able to do this or, whatever. I have a family member that needs care. They've got a disability, whatever. And I'm really hoping that you guys can do this for me. Okay. And then if that requires, I take a pay cut or, whatever, I'm willing to explore that if necessary. Now, I would talk to my boss first before I went to HR. Okay. I would also do this with HR. If you're in a larger company, you've got an HR department, you would also want to have this discussion with them. Okay. But I would talk to my boss first in person. And then depending on what they say, that might influence what I would do next. Okay. At some point, you're probably going to have to put it in writing, but I would talk to your boss in person first, and I would talk to HR, an HR rep in person before you put it in writing also. That's just me. Obviously, that might vary depending on your situation, but that's how I would handle it. I struggle with how to word this. Well, I would just say it the way you said it here. I would say, listen, this is based on, I would explain, it's this person, this family member, they have a medical condition. Here are the reasons why my spouse or somebody else couldn't do this. It has to be me. Things like this. If they have any kind of diagnosed medical condition, I would make sure that you know exactly precisely what that is before you have this meeting. Okay. So you can back up and say, well, they've been medically diagnosed by this doctor as having this. Okay. And for that reason, the doctor has recommended that they need this care and someone has to physically go and do this. And I'm the only one in my family that can, unfortunately, something like that. Like really make it, like a pretty detailed case. Okay. I would do all of that before you approach anyone. Okay. So that's all I can say. Just something along those lines. Oh, I'm getting bug-eyed here. Time for another mystery drink. These both look the same. One is Red Bull. One is Diet Ginger Ale. It's hard telling which one's which. Kartik says, hi, sir. I recently joined in a company as a duty manager in a non-technical line. Here, my manager is a little hot-headed. Oh, no. And he's putting me down and pessimistic, showing partiality. I'm struggling. Yeah, that's always fun. I had to deal with stuff like this in my early career, as I'm sure a lot of people have. You have a raging psychotic boss that's, insulting people and intimidating people and all this kind of stuff. Listen, here's officially what you would do, okay, in most situations, in most countries around the world. The first thing you do is you have to talk to your boss. You just have to, okay? First, you have to do it once. You can't go over their head and complain to their boss before you even make your issue known to your boss, okay? You can't go above their head. Even though you might not want to address this with them, you might be a little intimidated. It might be nerve-wracking, stressful. You have to do it with them, okay? So here's what you do. You go and you talk to them, like I kind of said earlier, just at a time when they're least likely to be stressed out and overworked and upset. maybe Friday afternoon or something, and you talk to them one-on-one. You go somewhere where you're not like surrounded by other people that are listening in, okay? If they have an office, you could go into their office, you close the door. But some private place, just one-on-one, you say like, look, I like working for you, I try and do the best I can, blah, 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 but I have an issue with the way you're talking to me, okay? I feel that you're putting me down. I feel it's undeserved, okay? I feel that it might border on harassment or whatever else, discrimination, whatever the case may be, okay? I'm not sure if it's intentional or it's unintentional, but I'd ask you to please, if you can be more respectful when you address me, I would really appreciate that. If you can't, this is something you don't feel like you can do, I feel I would have no other choice but then to take it higher. Okay? I'm hoping we don't have to go that far. Does that make sense? And then you let them talk and you listen to what they have to say. Okay? Now, you don't have to say anything else. If they say something good, they say, oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't realize you were offended. It's not intentional. I'll try to work on that. Great. If they say something negative, they say, you know what? I'm tired of your complaining. You're just an idiot, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not going to change. You're lucky I don't fire you, whatever. Something like that. It's like, oh, you don't have to say anything else. Then you go to their boss or you go to the HR department, the HR rep or whatever you have, okay? And you tell them face to face. You tell them in person, okay? You have a one-on-one meeting and tell them in person. And this should not come as a surprise. You said, look, I've tried to resolve this with my boss, okay? I have had a one-on-one meeting with them in private, okay? I have stated my issue and my concerns, and I've requested that they be a little bit more professional when the way they address me, and but they didn't have a very good reaction to this, and I didn't hear any kind of sense of that they were taking it seriously. So that's what brings me here. And then you go from there. Okay, that's how I would deal with it. I know that depending on where you work, it can be a pretty tough culture. I've worked in some pretty tough places early on in my career. So I know how stressful it can be. After all, a lot of times we're not dealing with rocket scientists here. This isn't brain rocketry. Some of these people are not very sophisticated, a lot of times they're quite miserable human beings too. And they're just reflecting, what's going on inside. But you have to do that. That's what you have to do. If you don't do that and you try and escalate it or whatever, then it becomes partly your fault. They'll pin it on you. They'll say, well, it's the first time I've heard of this. Why couldn't you address your concern in a professional way and go through proper channels? You're to blame. That's the risk you run by not doing this. Okay. And then sometimes there's some people you just can't reach, and I have left jobs because of that. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people have. That's a common thing. The number one reason why people leave jobs is not because of money. It's because of the people, right? Including their boss a lot of the time. Let's see. Where am I here? So yeah, just chin up and just try that. And at least you're being professional about it. If you do that, no one can say you're being unprofessional. You're acting like a child. It's like, no, you're addressing it in a professional, standard way that people deal with these things. Do you do assessments and resumes? No, sorry, I don't. I think there's a lot of people that do, but like what I recommend is you go online and you look at resume examples. Like I've done that thing where you go to bing.com, not Google. I'm not knocking Google. Google's good for a lot of things, but bing.com is a very good image search. And in the search box, you type in resume examples, and then you set it to an image search. And then all these resumes pop up, like thousands of resumes, one after another. And you get a feel for what professional resumes look like, what's written on them, things like that. And there really is no standard of how to do a resume. I mean, everybody does it a different way, So, I mean, whatever. You can take some advice in the beginning when you're just learning, but beyond that, it's more of what's on your resume, not like how you phrase things or the font you use or the layout or anything like that. How to explain KPIs performance. What does that mean? Like, are you talking about HR metrics? Like for key performance indicators, you're talking about HR, you're talking about for your job, or you're talking about for a company? You have to be more specific. How to overcome anxiety and nervousness during an interview. Well, there's one very simple way that always works, and that is practice. Okay? In the beginning, we're all nervous. Okay? Whenever someone has to do public speaking or anything like that, and this is a form of public speaking, everyone's nervous. Okay? If you're not nervous in the beginning, you're not normal. Okay? It's just that simple. We shed our anxiety and our nervousness the more we do. Okay? So there's a couple of things you can do. First of all, go to lots of job interviews. I know that sounds, like hideous, that's probably not a very comforting thought to you, but the more you do, the better you get. Okay? And then on top of that, do preparation, like learn answers to questions and then practice, do mock interviews, grab a family member, grab a friend and say, hey, can you help me practice, my job interview? And you give them a list of questions, or you say, go on the internet, find some questions and ask me them. And we're going to do like as if this was a real interview. You're the interviewer, I'm the candidate, and just ask me these questions. And it's going to be practice for me. And at the end, if you feel like it, you can tell me what you think I should work on. But you don't have to do that part. You can just ask me the questions. And then you do this over and over and over and over again, okay? And if you have different family members, different friends, the more you do, the better. I guarantee you, if you do like a bunch of mock interviews every day for 2 weeks, you will feel a lot more confident in yourself. And then if you go to, say, another 10 job interviews, okay, you will feel more confident and you will do better. You got to put your time in, unfortunately. Now, that's not a quick fix. That takes a little bit of work, but that is the solution. It's like anything else. Practice makes perfect. Okay, but when this is done, you will be a pro and you will lose a lot of that fear of doing a job interview, okay? You will not be nervous because to you, it'll be routine. Wouldn't you like to be there? Well, this is how you do it, okay? It'll take a couple of weeks, maybe, I don't know, a month, maybe even longer, but not much longer than that, okay, if you work on this. Okay, once you've been asked every question under the sun like 5 times, you'll feel pretty confident about what to say, and it'll come to you. It's like having to get up on stage and play an instrument like a guitar or something. You got to sing and play guitar, okay? Now, if you've kind of practiced for half an hour by yourself at home, and that's all you've done, and you get up on a stage and there's all these people looking at you and you got to sing and play this guitar, that's nerve-wracking. You'll feel very nervous and stressful, and you probably won't come across very well. But if you practice your instrument and you practice singing and you do a lot of performances, like, every couple of days you're doing a performance in public, after a very short time, you will feel confident in yourself and you will go down much, much better. Okay? And you will have that skill for life. You will never be as nervous when you step up in front of a crowd, okay, to sing and play guitar, right? As an example. So this is kind of the same thing. Once you overcome this, you have it for life. Okay, so it's well worth putting the time in. A lot of us, we only do it when we're forced to, like when we're between jobs and we have to do this. But this is actually a great thing. It probably doesn't feel like a great thing, but it really is a great thing. Okay? My Studio says, thank you for your time answering my question. I will work harder on my English. Yeah, like if you're trying to get a job where you got to speak English all day, yeah, it'll pay off. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are not working on their English that are going to be in the same jobs that you're going for, but you're gonna win because you've put in all this extra work. Okay. And the other, just as an aside here, the other added benefit is that if ever they ask you, you know, give me an example of a time you had to overcome a challenge, here's your answer. Give me an example of, you know, a time you had to go above and beyond, you know, and, you know, work on something that maybe wasn't fun to achieve a goal. Here's your answer. Why should we hire you over somebody else? Here's a big part of your answer. Because I take the time and I put in the work to learn these skills because they will benefit me and they will make me better at my job. I'll be able to be more effective. And even though the work itself is really not enjoyable, the end result makes it all worth it. I do the work, I get the result, and that's why you should hire me. Gagan Sharma says, recently heard of moonlight work culture in IT. Can you please detail about this? Does it mean I can work for US or Canada? How dare you spell Canada with a lowercase c? Or Canada-based work remotely without need of visa or clearance? Well, listen, once again, Gagan, I'm not an immigration expert or, you know, someone who has like all the minute details of specific, you know, like international work and things like this. So I'm not the best person to ask. I've had some experience with that stuff, but it's been very limited to specific things. So sorry, I can't really give you, I wouldn't want to give you information on that if it's not accurate, and I really don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm just not going to say anything. There are other resources that can help you with that. For a start, any questions like that, I would address it to, I would get online, and if you're looking for employment, say in Canada, and you're in the US, I would go online. I'd go to the Canadian government website, you know, the Canadian Embassy or something like that. They have a number. I would just call the number and say, like, look, I got questions about how to get a work visa under these circumstances, and see what they say. I'm falling a bit behind here, so I got to hurry up. Flax60 says, what's the best information about a company to look for before the interview? You need to know what they do. That's pretty important. Okay. They may not say what they do in the job posting. So make sure you go to their website and you see what business they're in. That's pretty important. Okay. I actually did a video on that. There's like a few things that you can look at beyond that. Okay. I'm just trying to think. Knowing what they do. There are recruiters. I've heard recruiters say, like, you need to know who the CEO is and stuff like that. Personally, I don't think that's important, but you need to know what business they're in. Okay. And maybe where they're based. Okay. So like if they have a sort of central facility in one city, but they've got branch offices in 5 others, and you're in a place where they have a branch office, but you know that their main operation is in a different city, that would be pretty important. That would be relevant information. Okay. So things like that. Shona Hill says, hey, is that like Fat Albert? Hey. You know, something like that. That was more like Gonzo from the Muppets than Fat Albert. Anyway, you'd have to be sort of my age probably to understand who Fat Albert is. It was a cartoon in the 70s. Anyway, I'm totally on topic. Any tips on how to make a resume stand out to more employers? Well, it depends what they're looking for. The way that you will make the resume stand out to employers is if you have on it exactly what they're looking for. Okay. So in a perfect world where we had infinite time, to focus on each job opportunity, what you would do is you would rewrite your resume for every job you apply to. In a magical world where we have time to do this, that's what you would do. You would phrase it the way they phrased it. And you can try all kinds of stuff like highlighting the important things. I've seen that. I've done that. Things like that. And this is all assuming that the resume is read by a human, not applicant or candidate matching software. Okay, sir. Understood. He's a little egoistic. He's involved in office politics. This was... Okay, yeah. This was the idiot manager, the offensive, harassing manager. Yeah, office politics is complicated. Sometimes it's malevolent. Other times it's unfortunately something that people have to do just to keep their job. So, depending on the situation. You're welcome, Kartik. Eugene says, what's the best way to answer, why do you want to leave this current company if you're a full-time employee? Oh, why do you want to leave your current company if you're a full-time employee? Well, listen, the short answer is to say, I'm ready to do more. But it gets a bit complex. I've done a video on that. That's one of my most popular videos. So check out my YouTube channel. Just go there. And if you look at my videos by popularity, this one has a lot of views. I think it's one of the ones that has a million views or whatever. Check out that video because I go through if you were fired, if you were laid off, if you are just resigning, there's different situations. Jordan says, any advice for my spouse who is out of work for 4 years? She applies for positions that fit her qualities and has done before, but never receives a call. Yes, I do, Jordan. It's very simple. It's called networking. That is the thing that can break the catch-22 of being out of work for a long time. Because as we all know, the way recruiters think is if you've been out of work for a while, they think, okay, that makes you a high-risk candidate because there may be a reason why you've been out of work. Maybe you're unemployable. Maybe you've got attitude problems. Maybe you're the type of person that just quits randomly and never stays. They don't know. You're a stranger to them. And so they're going on assumptions. Now, this isn't entirely stupid, but the problem is, if you follow those rules, no one would ever be able to get back to work, right? So the way you break that catch-22 of, we're not going to give you a job because you've been out of work, and you've been out of work because no one will give you a job, the way you break that cycle is networking, okay? Because to make a long story short, they're hiring you not from your resume. They're hiring you because of the interaction they've had with you. They can see you're a professional. They can see you know your stuff. They can see that you're a great person to deal with. And that's why they will hire you, not because of what's on your resume. I know that's a bit of a simplification, but that's basically what's going on. That's why networking is the solution to all kinds of catch-22s. The other one is like changing careers. If you have zero experience in the career you're trying to go into, how could anyone give you a job? You've got no experience. You don't know what you're doing, right? That's how recruiters think. But if that's how everyone thought, no one would ever change careers, right? The way people break that cycle is also networking. They're not hiring you based on your past experience. They're hiring you based on the person that's in front of them, that's great to deal with, that knows their stuff, that's got the right attitude, and that's highly professional. That's why they're willing to give you a chance, not because of your work history. So if you've never done networking before, I always feel like a jackass, plugging my course. My course, in my opinion, my course has the definitive guide to it. That's just my opinion. That's my version of it. That's what I've used to build businesses and to build a consulting business most recently. and that's helped a lot of people. I used to teach it in university. I do have some free videos, and you can learn from other people too. But, if you really want the definitive thing, the guide, step by step, and you want to like get into this, that's what I would recommend. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm going to do this once more, just in case some new people are here. But here, this is the specific video that I'd recommend that you check out. It's like 5 minutes, and it explains a little bit more and more visually what I'm talking about. So this is my channel, right? The videos, okay? And you sort by, the newest, right? Okay, I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't see that. Here we go. You sort by newest, right? And then you scroll down to, where is it? Of course, I can't find it now. Here. There we go. So this one right here. How successful people get jobs. This one. Okay, and that walks you through visually the basics of like the beginning of networking. Of course, when I click on it, it plays an ad first, but you get the idea. Okay, so I would check that out. That guy looks like a guy who knows his yogurt. He's trying to sell you some yogurt. He looks like a man that I'd buy yogurt from. That's all I can say. And I've bought yogurt from a lot of people in my life, and I've seen them come and go. Okay. But yeah, networking is the solution to a lot of this stuff. All the seeming paradoxes and catch-22s with dealing with how recruiters value people and how they select people, nearly all of them are solved with networking. That's the way you get around those problems. I'm really behind on the questions here. I have to hurry this up. Did I do this one? Nick Brain? I don't think so. Okay, I did that one. So Yoshi says, Yoshi is CEO of Boss Corporation. But this is a different Yoshi, I think. Yoshi, any advice on how to have the resume stand out and get hired? I think I did that one. That was just to have what they're looking for on it, right there, front and center, without a bunch of other fluff cluttering it up. It shouldn't be buried inside 3 pages of other stuff. It should be right there so they can see it and they go, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that too, right? And then you have everything. Okay. Nick Brain, I want to thank you for all your advice because I was able to get my current job. My question is, if someone messes up part of a job, what's the best way to handle the situation professionally? First of all, congratulations, Nick. You should be very proud. And I'm glad it's working out for you. Now, when you say if someone messes up part of the job, what are you talking about? Are you talking about a coworker? Are you talking about a subordinate? Or are you talking about yourself? Because there's different answers for all of those. If you could just elaborate, that would be helpful. Scrawny Boy says, my boss surprises me in an interview every day or two in a row, often some days, or two in a row, often some days. All the managers of 7-Eleven each give the same employee prospect an interview each and have the interviewee come back the next day if all the managers are not on duty that day. Which usually not. This is for regular hour worker, okay? We hire 80% of employees even if there's no room. Okay? Does that work? Like you hire more people than you need? My studio says it's hard to spend time preparing for interviews within a week or two while working full-time overtime. Is it okay to tell interviewer to schedule 3 weeks out or more, especially for a senior level tech job? That's going to be entirely up for you. If you're working right now and you're not desperate for a job, then you have the luxury of being able to do that. Just remember that regardless of your situation, it's going to be perceived on some level as, I don't care about your job that much. That's how they're going to interpret it. Okay. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Blah, 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 if you see what I mean. Unavoidable. But it's up to you to determine whether that makes sense for you to do or not. Okay. If they're offering your dream job, you might want to try and make time for it, right? And like if they want to interview now, you say, yes, sir, I'll be there, or yes, ma'am. And, they get this impression that for you, nothing's ever a problem. You're a very accommodating person. It just works with you. And that's the impression you want to get. You want to give. Okay, if you're asking for a favor from somebody, and you are, by talking to a recruiter or pursuing a job opportunity, that's what's going on. Okay. If you don't signal that you're fully committed, it usually is taken as, oh, this person is not really that interested. They don't really care. And that's obviously a negative. Okay, I understand that there are reasons why you can't just bow to their every whim when you've got a full-time job going, but that's just part of it. And it's up to you to determine what makes sense for you to do. I mean, sorry, I know that's not very helpful, but that's basically the situation. Jay Grace says, no, first of all, Flax60 says, thanks for the tip. You're welcome, Flax60. I like your name, by the way. Is it like 88 millimeter Flax60, something like that? Or Flax 60 millimeter? Anyway, it's a warfare joke. Most people wouldn't understand. Jay Gray says, thanks for your tips on how to ask for time off for family members' doctor's visits. You're welcome. Quick follow-up if you have time. Should I bring this up in negotiations before accepting a job offer or after hired? Never bring it up before. Get the job, then you can talk about it, okay? Like get an offer, get a written offer in your hand. And then if it's something that could be a showstopper, like, sorry guys, I need every third day off to deal with my sick parent, if it's something that you think that they might rescind the job offer if they knew it, get the job in your hand first. Because if you don't get the job, it's academic, right? So get the job, then bring it up, and then you're going to bring it up before you quit your current job, okay? That's kind of what you would do in a perfect world, okay? That's how I would do it, to minimize your risk. A lot of times if you bring it up in the hiring process, that will be the tiebreaker. Well, we like this candidate. We normally get them, but they got this medical thing they need accommodation for. It's just a little simpler to go with this other candidate. They don't have any strings attached, My boss is a narcissist, really hope to be fired. Well, all I can say is there can't be many of them in the world, and don't hope to be fired. You mean laid off? Hopefully the only way that would make sense for me is if you were fired without cause, right? Because if you're fired with cause, a lot of times that, depending where you are in the world, that means that you can't collect any kind of unemployment benefit or social security or anything like that. I'm sorry, I almost called you Scrawny Boy. Shawnee Boy says, we hire 80% of employees even if there's no room. Yeah, I read that one already. That's interesting to me. Excuse me. Bill, currently I'm in a late stage of 2 legal manager positions at the pharma industry. Neither company know that. Should I inform them? No, absolutely not. No. You see, look. Ultimately, it's up to you, okay? Because it could go both ways. Some people regard look, this is kind of the mind games that recruiters play, okay? If you have a competing job offer, some recruiters will see that and go, this person is in high demand. That's good. We want them even more. And there's urgency involved now. We better hurry up and snag them before somebody else does, right? The problem is other people interpret that as like, oh, okay, you're not fully sold on working here. Okay, well, it's good you told me that because I don't want to stick my neck out and recommend you as the candidate we should hire only to have you not accept the job offer because you've gone somewhere else. That'll be embarrassing for me. It'll be a waste of time for my company. It'll lengthen this process. So you're a higher risk person because you might bail any moment. I don't like that. I'm going to go with the other person. Okay. So it could go both ways depending on who you're dealing with. Okay. If it were me, I wouldn't disclose it. That's just me. Okay. But depending where in the world you are, what industry you're in, and what individuals you're dealing with, it could go either way. Yoshi says, thanks. Thank you, Yoshi. Gagan says, my sincere apologies for writing Ken. I'm just joking, Gagan. You're awesome. Okay. Never let anyone tell you different. You know, God knows the amount of typos and things I make. I offend people when I'm totally oblivious to it by doing stuff like that. So don't worry about it. Okay. You're doing fine. My question was around to know concept of moonlight working in IT-based jobs. Listen, like I said before, but I maybe didn't communicate very clearly, I don't really know too much about that. By moonlighting, usually that means like you're sort of taking a night job in addition to a day job. And, you know, I don't hear that term being used. Other people use other terms for it if we're referring to the same thing, which is a sort of like part-time economy or gig economy, where people are taking contract work, part-time jobs, and working in multiple jobs. So I think that's what you might be referring to, but if it's something specific to IT, I'm not sure. I used to work in IT, like I started an IT company like 20 years ago, whatever it was. You know, but I've been kind of out of that world really since then. So all my knowledge comes from 20 years ago, which is not very good. But yeah, if it's a standard thing, it's a standard thing. You know, a lot of people are doing multiple part-time jobs or contract work. And the great thing about it is that some of those part-time and contract work, they can turn into, you know, much better permanent jobs and things later on, depending on how things go. So that's one good thing about it. Okay, but if you're wanting to learn the concept, I mean, just ask around in the industry or go online and do a search for something like gig economy. Okay, that's the term that I've heard quite a lot. Nick says, since it's my first job and I'm inexperienced, I'm worried if I'll be the one to mess up. Haha, thanks. Don't worry about it, Nick. I'm assuming that you're younger, you're just starting your career. Listen, you know, you're no different from anyone else. And, you know, I can't even count the times that I messed up, especially early on in my career, my first one or two jobs. You're thrown into a situation and you just have to sort of roll with it. And, you know, you're going to pick a lot of things up. You're going to surprise yourself at how much you can pick up, you know, just and on your feet, you know, just jump in and, you know, you see what people are doing and you kind of imitate it in the beginning, you know, and then you get a bit more confident in it. And then you can start making decisions more about how you're going to handle things. And they turn out to be correct. So don't worry about it. You know, and if for whatever reason they don't understand this, then they're morons, you know, like if you hire like, you know, new people that haven't really had, like this is their first career job and you expect them to know everything that, you know, someone with 20 years experience would know, that's silly. So don't worry about it. It's a bad place to work or it's a bad boss if they don't understand that. Okay. But don't worry, you're going to be fine. Yoshi, I thought you said something. I did say something. I can't remember what it was though. How do you do a great job in an interview if the employer asks behavioral questions or scenario questions? Here we go. Okay, to get my definitive, all-encompassing answer, check out one of my videos I've done on how to answer behavioral questions, okay? I've talked about that at length. But the short answer is what you do is you pick a handful of stories from your past, like from your work experience. So maybe 5 of your greatest wins and 5 failures of some kind that you maybe salvaged the situation or learned something, that kind of thing. Okay. Practice telling those in a very compact way. A lot of people use the STAR method. It was just a way of like telling that story in a very compact form so it doesn't take you 10 minutes to tell a story. Okay? Because if you go on for 10 minutes answering a question in a job interview, that's bad. They won't let you finish. Okay? You're taking too long. So you practice, you memorize like 5 success stories, 5 failures, and you practice telling them in a very compact way. Then you come to the interview, and any behavioral question that they ask you, you're going to pull out one of those 10 stories to answer. Okay? Whichever one that it kind of fits the most for the question they're asking. Okay? Tell me about a time when you failed, and it was very embarrassing in front of your boss, but then you managed to work extra hard and turn everything around and turn it into a win. Go. Right? They're going to ask you a question like that, and you're going to pull out one of those stories. Okay. Well, it was 5 years ago. I was working as a technician, and I was given the job of fixing this piece of equipment, and I didn't have the right tools. Well, what I did was, instead of just trying to fix it with improper tools, I went all the way back to the warehouse, which is something technicians don't usually do. I spoke to the warehouse manager and made a special arrangement where they managed to borrow a tool from a place that they don't normally do, give it to me, and that had never been done before in this place. And I came back, I used it to fix the equipment. And even though it was kind of embarrassing for me because my boss went to check up on me and they didn't know where I was, in the end, I showed up, I fixed it in record time, and everybody was impressed. There you go. It's like you just adapted a story from your past to whatever behavioral question they happen to ask you. And that's how you ace those questions. Okay? There's a bit more to it, but check out my actual videos on that topic to get the full meal deal. Your last message disappeared. That's not good. It's like in a puff of blue smoke. Oscar says, thank you, Bill. You're welcome. That's why I haven't told them. Also, they haven't asked me. Now, Oscar, you were... Oh, okay, the pharmaceutical industry thing. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, if they don't ask... Was it don't ask, don't tell, right? No. But same idea. If they don't ask you about it, you don't need to disclose that you've got a second job offer from somewhere. They don't need to know that. The other thing is that if you say, I've got a job offer on the table, or it's going to come in any moment now, I just thought you'd like to know. They may say something like, what's the company? And what's the person you're dealing with? And then you tell them, wanting to be accommodating and transparent, and then they call the company and sabotage your other job offer. That's been known. It doesn't happen all the time, but that has been known. A lot of people have done that. Okay? So it's none of their concern what you're doing with another company. Okay? That doesn't concern them. Now, if you accept a job with them, then maybe it will. Maybe it's their concern, but certainly not now. You're under no obligation to these people. Okay, I'm going to have to start wrapping this up in a few minutes, but we've got a few more questions, so let's go through these. So My Studio says, Thank you for your opinion. I like that. Well, thanks for your opinion. Thank you for your opinion. My performance got affected big time during the interview because of my full-time jobs working overtime a lot. So should I take my time preparing better than apply for the job? Well, listen, I kind of touched on this before, but that's going to depend on you. That's going to depend on how much you like your current job, how desperate you are for money right now. It's going to depend on how great this job opportunity is. Is this like your dream job, or this is kind of more of the same, right? It's going to depend on all those kind of factors, right? So based on how important it is, how much better it would be for you if you got that second job, that's going to determine, the detriment you should take to your current job to pursue this opportunity. Okay, so I mean, it's not something I can give you a yes or no answer on this. It's going to be totally depending on the details. Shawnee Boy says, number one, new employees are free hours. There's number two, there's often unexpected turnovers and issues. And number three, other locations are so much in need that we can overflow. Now, was this the 7-Eleven thing? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, if it's free hours, but you don't want to hire 1 million people and then maybe give them 1 hour every 2 weeks, right? But whatever. I mean, far be it from me to criticize what some company's doing. Yoshi, please tell me how to have the resume stand out and get hired. I kind of answered that earlier. Someone asked that exact question like 20 minutes ago. Christopher Goff. The short answer was just have on it exactly what they're looking for. They give you what they're looking for in the job posting, the requirements. Have those front and center. Have them stand out and have them not be buried by a bunch of other stuff. Christopher Groff says, it took about 5 months of research and interviews to get a different job. Big difference in my first interviews and my final interview. How do I keep that type of prepared mindset so I don't lose it? I've never been asked that before. How do you keep the job interviewing mentality so you don't lose it? That's a good one. I mean, apart from watching YouTube videos about job interviews, or, I mean, you could take notes of the questions they asked you or something. I don't know. You could even, I don't know if I'd recommend this, but I suppose technically you could record it. But I didn't say that. That's all I can really suggest. You have to sort of immerse yourself back in that. So the more notes you take, the more documentation that you have, so that you can immediately load it back into your head on demand. And within half an hour, you could be like right back in that frame of mind. The more documentation that you get, the better, right? Okay, I'm going to have to wrap this up in 3 minutes. So my studio says that I want to live close to my family, but I'd like my current job also. Which one was this again? Oh, yeah. Yeah, like that's understandable. Oh, time for the mystery drink. That one was ginger ale. Diet ginger ale, which I recommend. As you can see, it's done my physique wonders. Thanks for your advice, but what should I do if the employer asks me a question that all my prepared stories can't fit in? Well, then you haven't prepared enough stories. I'd say 10. And that doesn't make sense if you're adapting your stories. I said you take the closest one and then you adapt it. Okay? And if you practice, you will see that that's a lot easier than it sounds. Okay, Oscar, by the way, Bill, thanks again. Your videos were and are really helpful in these processes in several ways. I always recommend your channel to friends and colleagues. Well, thank you very much, Oscar. That's very kind of you. And I'm glad that it's working out. My studio, appreciate your time. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and it's my pleasure. Hans Garcia says, applying for an internal position with the same job grade, but with less complex task, because I'm no longer happy with my current department. How to ace the question, why leave your current role? Well, once again, I have a video on that explains that, but bottom line is just say I'm ready to do more. I'm interested in learning more. I could stay where I am and just keep doing the same thing over and over, but I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to add new skills to my repertoire of skills and abilities. And I've always had a secret passion for this particular type of work, and that's why I'm here. Don't say anything negative. Just focus on positive, okay? Christopher says, thank you for that answer. I got a lot of interview research from your videos. I want to thank you for helping me change my life for the better. Well, that's great news, Christopher. Excellent job, Look, life is about change. We have to change. We have to learn new things. We have to grow. Sometimes we're pushed to change. Other times it's more voluntary. But if there's, it's, what I'm going to say. It's such a cliche. If there's one constant in life, it's change, So, if we're open to it, that's good. I started my career. I had a very sort of, how can you say this? A very definitive idea of what my career was supposed to be. Because you go to school, right? And in school, they tell you, okay, you're going to graduate with this degree. And then they assume you're going to go into that profession. Like being a lawyer or something. You graduate with a law degree. Okay, you're going to be a lawyer. You're going to start out doing this. Then you're going to get into this type of role. And then you're going to get hired by these people, after about 10 years. And then you're going to do this. Then if you're good, you're going to rise to this position. It's like, yeah, it's all planned, right? Well, what I found was that that's not at all how things go. And the entire plan goes out the window with the first career job that certainly I got. And a lot of people get. And sometimes you feel like there's a wall in front of you where you can't progress down that path that you thought you were going to go. And other times, I don't know what the simile is, but something opens up, like a door opens up in front of you, and there's this whole other opportunity that you never even realized was there. And so you go down that path, and then now you're in unknown territory, and there's opportunities. Sometimes there's walls in front of you, but then other things open up. Right? Sometimes things seem like bad things that turn out to be good things. Maybe you didn't get a job. Turns out later it was a lucky escape. Maybe the company laid you off and you lost your job. Feels terrible. Turns out that was great because, after maybe 3 months or 5 months or a year or whatever, you got this other job, which was way more amazing. Right? Sometimes people don't worry about jobs. I haven't personally worked in a job for nearly 10 years. You could work. There's all kinds of other things. You could be an entrepreneur. You could go into business and have your own small business. You could, if you have more money, you could be an investor. There's other things you can do besides working at a job. Now, when people start out, when they're young, a lot of times you'll probably work in a regular job for a little bit. But then you have options. You take a job working in a company, you see exactly what they do. You see how they make their money. You see how easy it is to deliver this thing that people will pay for. And then you also get to know some of the customers. And the next thing you know, you have the capability of starting your own company that does that precise thing. Maybe on a smaller scale, but you're your own boss. And if you work hard and you do it right and you're smart about it, you can make a fortune. You eliminate that ceiling of, the pay that they give you, compensation. Everybody who works in a large organization they are bringing in on average more money, way more money than you're being paid. If you're being paid like $40,000 a year or something like that, or equivalent, or whatever currency, you're making the company an average of $100,000 a year, right? So the great thing is that there's no more limits on what you can do if you learn business and you learn your industry and all that kind of stuff. So for a lot of people, that's a path, right? Or they work in a career, they get to a certain level and then they jump out, if you can see my hand, and they become a consultant. Like there's all kinds of different career paths. Or you be a teacher, like somebody mentioned being a teacher early in this live stream. Some people start as a teacher and they jump out. Other people like me, like I did it as a kind of a fun novelty thing, is you sort of go into business, you become a manager, you build businesses, and the next thing you know, you jump out and you just do some teaching, So you don't have to go that route. You could just go here and then jump out to teach, right? So I mean, there's all kinds of different possibilities out there, and our careers and our lives take all kinds of exciting paths. And sometimes it doesn't feel very good because it's not what we were expecting, but that's the great thing about this stuff. So the more we embrace change, I know, oh God, I'm just hearing myself and it sounds so lame, but it's true. The more we're open to like, okay, this is going on right now. It's not what I planned, but maybe I'll just roll with it. And, most of the time great things happen. So that's the other thing. Anyway, listen, I've got to sign off now. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. There's 43 people here. That's nuts. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's very flattering that you listen to me ramble on like this. Excuse me. And just some things that are coming up. This live stream is going to be posted on my second channel. So if you didn't know it already, go and subscribe to my other YouTube channel, The Company's Expert 2. There's a link in the description to my second YouTube channel. That's where these end up. And there's also some other stuff on there. I've done some other videos that are there too. And I want to shout out to all my Patreons. There's people that support me on Patreon. That's great. And my channel members. And for my channel members, I've got some news coming. I've recorded several podcast videos that are coming out in the next couple of weeks, over the next month or so. But then after that, I'm going to, for the member videos, member-only videos, it's going to be some personal videos of mine. You're going to get to see some of the projects I've been working on. You get to see my house. You get to see stuff I'm doing behind the scenes in the YouTube channel. I'm going to do that for a while and see how that goes, because some people have requested that. So you know what? Sure. And but the last member-only video that's a podcast is going to be called The Strawberry Shortcake Problem. So if you join as a member, or if you are a member already, you will be able to see that. So that's going to be all very exciting. I'm sure you're dying to know what that's all about. Check out my courses. If you are out of work, if you need to get a job, but you're completely overwhelmed with how to get a job, where do I look for jobs? Where are the jobs? How do I put myself forward for them? Including more basic stuff like how to ace a job interview, how to write a resume, all that kind of stuff. I've put all of that into my course called the Get Hired course. So you can check that out. There's a link in the description. And also, if you want to go one step further, I have a course, like it says on the bottom of the screen, called the $100 MBA. And if you are interested in learning business, there could be many reasons for this. It can help you be a better manager if that's your ambition. It can help you start a company if that's your ambition. It can help you buy a small business or learn about that kind of stuff, start one yourself. But you want to do it right. You want to understand. You want to understand money. You want to understand people. You want to understand marketing, how to sell something. You want to understand operations. That's in this course called the $100 MBA. You learn everything you would learn in a traditional Masters of Business Administration program. The catch is that you get the textbooks that people use in some of the best MBA programs in the world, like including at Harvard and things like this. We're using some of the best textbooks, and you can get those. But it's completely self-study. There's no tests, no evaluations, no projects. Okay? You can go as deep as you want. So if you just want to sort of get a feel for what the topic is all about, but you don't really care that much, you can just skim it, and that's fine. If you want to really go in depth and really understand this stuff really well, you have that option also, because you're using the same textbooks that they use in a lot of major universities around the world. So if that aligns with some goals you might have, check that out. Link in description. And that's pretty much all I have. I will be live again next Wednesday. I'm not sure if I'll do it at this time. If you have any recommendations for what time I should do a live stream, let me know. Other than that, thank you so much for being here. You guys are all awesome. And if you're improving yourself, you're doubly awesome. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. Take care.